Against my better judgment, I am live this morning. I thought I would get on and kind of cap out what happened yesterday. There were basically, and I have to wait for that thing to shut off. Thank you, YouTube, for not having decent controls. Anyway, so 3 major storm fronts yesterday, and one of them was Otangelo, which we're dealing with. He did multiple live streams, and he was, I think he was on our Saturday Night at the Atheist, and I interacted with him on a weather report previously, and he is basically defending John Maddox's tRNA bullshit and claiming that chemistry is not deterministic, which is pretty much ridiculous. So there's that. And then Otangelo did, I think, multiple streams yesterday. He did like part 1, part 2, part 3. And he had Luca on there, and I forget who else. Mostly he had Tony Pudding Brain Anthony Maurice on so continually that it was impossible to listen to. I had to keep shutting the sound off. And the reason for that is Tony only says the same thing over and over and over again. Scientists use controlled experiments and purified reagents. And this man, I think he's a bot. I don't think he actually has a brain at all. He's actually just like an animated character that spits out the same script over and over again. And he does it with such a shitty attitude, that he's impossible to listen to. So there's the whole Otangelo thing, and we are thinking about addressing a few things that Otangelo said, but then out of the blue, Standing for Truth comes out with like 2 or 3 videos, orphan genes and a few other things where he's panicking because of the attacks from Dr. Dan and Erica. And it seems like he's floundering a bit. But then I tuned in for just a second, and he was talking about old Earth creationists and saying, that's not science, and they aren't being scientific or logical or rational because they actually read the science. That's his problem. He just comes out with this salesman pitch, this bullshit over and over again, where he is the sham wall salesman for young Earth creationists, and the kid makes no sense at all. He has nothing backing him up. He keeps talking about predictions, and I've never quite figured out what the hell they're predicting exactly, other than the human race is going to like disappear into genetic entropy in a few generations in the future, and that his kids are somehow mutant defects, but he's actually better because he's closer to Adam. I don't know. It's just amazing. We do have to get our shit together and start going through some of these videos and maybe commenting on them blow by blow, because there's so much. And then in the middle of all of that, we had a modern day debate. We had Aron and TJump went against 2 insignificant Christians. Who the hell cares who they are? And there was a debate, and then Maddox did an after show, and Leo Phileas stopped into the after show and taught them quantum mechanics. But now Leo said he taught them quantum mechanics, but I said, did you test them? Did you give them a quiz afterwards to see if any of it actually landed? I really, really doubt it did. But anyway, so I have put up a few links for some of this stuff, and I don't know. Hopefully I think I'll try to rough out the 3 things that Otangelo did, some of the other pertinent links, and at least let this particular weather report be a sort of a guide in the description. It's about all it's useful for. Let's see. What else is going on? Oh, yeah, the icon, the little insignificant Stinky Snake. He's really become repetitive, and I just don't really see any need to talk about him anymore. He's kind of irrelevant. I guess we got to keep an eye on him, and I'm pretty sure he'll say some more sexist bullshit, and he'll come up with some more just corrupt garbage that he comes up with, and we will have to comment on him. But for the most part, he's really boring. His cackle has gotten to be so boring and so repetitive that hi there, guys. Good morning. Anyway, so I thought I would do a little bit of this. Let me see if I can get something up here. Start cam, share screen. Share screen is in the wrong spot. Application window. We are hopefully going to share something. Let's see if I can get that. Why is it? Oh. And of course, that's not working. There we go. Okay. So what we've got here is a ribosome. And there are two steps basically in the whole process. We have the cell, of course, and we have the nucleus, which is where your DNA is. So this is the nucleus. And this is where things are transcribed. So it's called transcribing or transcription, where the DNA basically, through a pretty long process, creates some kind of a little mRNA. Now, an mRNA is kind of like DNA, just very, very similar, but it's single-stranded. And so we have a little tiny piece of something that's going to become a protein, and that gets exported out of the nucleus. Okay, and that's called transcription. So dead air transcription, and it goes out of here, and then outside here there's a big complicated thing with a bunch of ribosomes laying all over the place, and this is where we translate. So we take that mRNA and we translate it into a protein. So now we have mRNA being translated into a protein, and it's important to kind of get those two terms down in your head if you're listening to us geeks talk about this shit. So anyway, so that process happens with the ribosome, and that's where the problem with Maddox comes in, where these ribosomes or these ribosomes have like 3 slots in them. They end up having 3 slots, and they're labeled, if you read from right to left, APE, which spells ape, which is easy to understand. They stand for acyl something, peptidyl, and exit. And I like to think of them as oh my God, come on, arrival and protein and exit. So you're a tRNA, which is this little guy right here. It's kind of like an adapter molecule. It arrives and it has a particular amino acid hooked up to it, like it might have a leucine or whatever. And then it has a particular little anticodon down here. And it has 3 things sticking out of it, basically. And it is going to match this mRNA string down here. You can think of this as a string of nucleotides. And there are 3 codon, codes, basically 1, 2, 3. So this is a code, and this anticodon is going to match. And because of a bunch of machinery out here, there's a whole bunch of different tRNAs where an anticodon tRNA has been matched with a particular amino acid. And that is the code part. That's where we could call DNA a code. And I recommend that all atheists stop trying to push back on this idea of calling it a code. Is it an analogy? Sure. Yes, it is. It's us humans describing something as a code because we understand codes, because we understand Morse code, and we have human languages. And of course, we're going to describe things in ways that we can communicate with each other, right? So we're going to call it codes. Maddox wants to call it programming code, which doesn't fit at all. Just tell him no. Just tell him to fuck off when he does that. But anyway, so we've got the codon that comes in, and this arrives, and then this ribosome kind of moves along the chain, and it gets attached to this growing protein chain up here, which we call a nascent or, newborn protein. It's a big long string. It hasn't folded yet. And it's, just getting this information. It's decoding this strand of mRNA as it goes along. Now, the whole basis of Maddox saying that this is not chemistry is apparently that, okay, you could say, now this part here where the codon, locks in right here. I have to keep remembering that you can't see my pointer, unfortunately. So this part locks in like down there, right? And that is done with something called hydrogen bonding, or basically you can look at any molecule as like a chunk of plastic with a bunch of magnets embedded in it. So every different protein or RNA has its own like magnetic properties. Like if you took a piece of clay and you took a bunch of little magnets and embedded randomly the magnets around the clay, and then you took another piece of clay and came up with a different kind of embedding of magnets and stuck those two things together, they would attach to each other through these basically non-bonding. It's not a chemical bond. It's sort of an attraction of molecules. It's how water dissolves stuff, and it's how all chemistry works. But I would call that a deterministic chemical reaction. Basically, something happens between two molecules, and it is determined by basically where these magnets are here and where these magnets are here. And so that is a chemical reaction. And you go up to tRNA, which is kind of a long, loopy looking thing, and you'll find that particular amino acid has been attached to this one. And of course, that could be any amino acid, depending on the other genes in that nucleus. The ones that created these tRNAs decided on which amino acid was going to pair with which tRNA. And of course, it has its anticodons, which are going to attach down here, right? So that's the code part of it. And that's the part that we can say, oh, that could have happened in a number of different ways. There are, I think, some tremendous number of different possible coding patterns it could have used. Of course, it could have used 4 nucleotides instead of 3. And so there's actually an infinite number of coding patterns it could have used. So that's kind of what the whole controversy is about. But nowhere in this thing, in this process, this little machine that goes along and translates this, is there anything non-deterministic? This is chemistry, all of it. Bonding, yeah, bonding is chemistry, but there's also this whole thing of like you got an oxygen atom and you got a hydrogen and on water, right? Okay, this has sort of a magnetic property to it. And that's what makes water kind of special at tearing things apart. That's how it dissolves things. That it's a little bit unbalanced here because this oxygen here kind of grabs the electrons more strongly than the hydrogens do. So you've got a little magnet here, So this is just, I don't know, I can't draw a magnet, but it's got bars, and it will connect to some other molecules. So we could call that, we could say that's not a chemical reaction. It's more of a magnetic attraction, sort of, and that's pretty much how the cell works. I mean, there's a ton of that going on. Any enzyme, like an enzyme, is this big, complicated protein structure, right? And it has some sort of a little pocket in it, like that, right? And here's the pocket. And so then we end up with, okay, this is an enzyme is a protein, basically. So we end up with another protein kind of like locks into this thing because of its magnetic properties and its shape. And it's called a lock and key fit, So now it has grabbed that protein right here. and it's locked it into its body right here. And then the magic happens, and that is where basically say there's like, say this protein happens to bind a magnesium ion, and it has particular amino acids right here. And because of that, and because it's trapped this red guy in, it is going to create some sort of it's going to cause some sort of a chemical change right here on this, what they call the substrate. I don't know why they call it the substrate, badly named, but the substrate is what it acts upon, and this is the enzyme. But you could say that about any enzyme, and we have tens and hundreds of thousands in our body that, you know, do the same thing where they lock things in. They lock in the substrate. They have some sort of chemical or magnetic property right here. Oh, come on, what does it do that? There we go. Like right here, that causes a chemical reaction, and that's how your body works. That's basically how biology works. So you could say of any enzyme that it's not a chemical reaction because it uses this magnetic property of locking things in. I just want to, one more thing about that is sometimes these substrates right here, this lock and key fit is extremely tight, very specific. So only one particular thing is going to lock into that enzyme and get something done upon it. But sometimes it's not so specific. So the specificity has a range. So sometimes these things will lock into more than one substrate and perform some sort of magic on varying things. But for the most part, you know, we think that it kind of locks in pretty specifically. But so anyway, so, you know, could we just put this code shit to sleep? Hold on a second here. I have to comment about, I have to watch my cat. Let's see. Yep. And let's see. When ID guys say DNA is a code, just ask them, why is an all-powerful, limited to writing and code? Yeah, why doesn't he just create a little machine that spits out what we need, you know? I mean, Christ, couldn't be that hard. But that kind of leads into the whole Otangelo discussion, too, about naturalism versus, you know, the God idea. Otangelo's been speaking very loudly about that, and we have to get into it in a little bit of detail, where he's saying we have naturalism of the gaps, and we're telling him he has God of the gaps. I would like to explore that more seriously. You know, if he would keep Pudding Brain Maurice out of his chat for just 5 fucking minutes, and I could get on his channel, I could probably have a conversation with him about it, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so I hope I explained that. This whole ribosome thing here is, you know, John Maddox's favorite bunny, because that's where I don't think he really understands how it works, how it happens, and I don't understand 100%. No one understands 100% how this thing actually assembles and comes together. But there is a book that I have, I think it's about 300 pages, that gets into a lot of details. So we know a great deal about the process, but we don't know everything. I mean, there are some parts that were just like, you know, it's a mystery to us. And then we have the difference here in eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells. Now, this is the eukaryotic ribosome that I know the most about. But if you look at the prokaryotes, which are simpler, they're actually, you can actually see an evolutionary line between the two. You can see that they have a different method that is simpler, and eukaryotes got a little more complicated and took a whole bunch of proteins and attached it, you know, to this ribosome. And we're not entirely sure what all of them do yet, but we're working on that. So, Molecular Alchemy, hi. I should have sent you a link. you could stop in and say hi. Does anybody want to? Oh, there's hi, Manny. I hope I'm making some sense with this. It gets, we start criticizing these people and we start using a language and we don't often explain it. And there are some simple things that we need to know. So what I would concentrate on is this transcription in the nucleus and translation outside of the nucleus where the proteins get, created, and that we have this mRNA right here, that gets created in the nucleus and it gets translated out here. And that's basically what we're talking about. And from there, I don't know, we can drill down. So I warned you guys not to listen to this crap this morning. I'm totally all over the place. Okay. Back to the 3 weather fronts. There's another front. Praise That I Am does a 11 or 12 hour stream every night. And he seems to do another one during the day. I think he was online for a total of like 20 hours yesterday. And at the end of his stream this morning, I stopped in and guess who was there? Shadow Dancer. My God, it was Shadow Dancer. And I think she was trying to explain that she believes in a 200,000-year-old Earth. But I'm not sure. You'd have to check me on that. But it's like I go to sleep and they're just getting wound up. And then I wake up and I look and they're still streaming. Memory Lapse DM seems to run the whole thing. What in the hell is wrong with these people? Do they have jobs? ID guys should stick to debating theology and become materialists and use science to explain God. They become materialists. Yeah, exactly. What they're experiencing is a lack of faith. I stopped into that praise stream this morning and I had a little bit of conversation with Honest the Angel about what I believe in naturalism. She asked me if I worship science. Well, I worship complexity. And we kind of had a little bit of a back and forth that was very pleasant. It always is, usually with that particular individual. And we were talking about, I totally lost my train of thought. I went too far. I went too far, too fast. Anyway, I made the comment that young earth creationism probably converts more Christians to atheists than any other idea that's ever come about. I mean, they raise these kids as yaks, and then they go to college and they learn just the surface science. I mean, if you just learn a little bit about geology and tectonic plates, you're like, all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, they lied to me. And because they lied to me about that, they abandoned the entire Christian thing. And if they would so young earth creationism is probably the biggest enemy that Christianity has today. And I guess that's good for us because, for us, it turns out to be like for me, I'm an anti-theist. I really want religion and belief in spirits and myths to go the way of the horse and buggy. So I guess it's good for me that these fools are out there trying to promote this crazy science. And I don't know. I don't understand why they want to die on that hill. I mean, it has something to do with the way they interpret biblical scripture, that if they didn't, I don't know. It's hard to tell. If the numbers didn't add up for them, they would have to abandon something else that's precious to them or something to do with foundational foundationalism and this fundamentalist Christianity, which is just insidious and ridiculous. Unfortunately, it has a hold on about 15 to 30% of this country right now. This supposedly great America is more in the dark ages, I think, than almost any other country. It's got a hold on us. And anyway, it gives us an opportunity to fight back against the bullshit, I guess. Why the hell would you need the mess? Yeah. Anyway, I think I have done as much damage as I can do today. Can I do any more damage? Good conversation with Tony. You had a conversation. Yeah, I saw that, Laurie. I was. I have to watch the whole thing. I do. Did Tony say anything other than his usual spiel that we always we have to have the controlled reactions? I mean, did he have anything else to say? It would be interesting to. I don't have your email, so I can't invite you in. I could put the link in whatever here and talk to somebody. Hang on a second here. I'm afraid Otangelo will pop in. Oh my God. Copy to clipboard. Alt V. So I mean, does Tony ever say anything about chemistry at all? He claims to be this pharmaceutical chemist. Admittedly with a bachelor's degree, which means he took like maybe 3/4 of chemistry, maybe 4 at the most. He doesn't seem to ever actually say anything intelligent. And I've got, I'm going to go and I think do a compilation of the chats that he's put out. It's funny as hell. He almost repeats verbatim the same thing over and over again for hundreds and thousands of chats. And I gotta listen. God, if I listen to your discussion, how do I listen to Tony without losing my fucking mind? I don't know. Yeah, he's obsessed with abiogenesis. It's like, I don't know. I think his daddy left his mommy, to go and do research in abiogenesis and abandoned him when he was a child, and he grew up in poverty. And that's one of the reasons why his brain didn't fully develop. It's kind of my theory on the thing. I don't know. Anyway, anybody want to get in? Let me know if anybody wants to get in. Otherwise, I think I'm going to go away. The obsession. I think maybe I will try to have a conversation with Otangelo today, or I don't know. I can't keep up with all these videos. These guys are just slamming me. I mean, like, there are 24 hours in the day. If you run them at 2 times speed, there's like 100 hours a day coming out. That gives me 50 hours and 24 hours to listen to this crap. Oh, Tony is Anthony Maurice. Anthony Maurice. You must have seen him in chat. So, okay. You better stay driving. Maybe we can chat a little bit later. Let's see. So I think I'm going to end this now because I definitely am not going anywhere anymore. I hope the tRNA thing made some sense. Please ask questions. We have to kind of get these basics down on this code thing because it's kind of the biggest talking point we got going out there. So anyway, we'll see you guys. I will hopefully do something here a little bit later today too. That's why we should focus on the brain trust sources. Yeah, I think Otangelo, though, really sums up the ID position. And yesterday he put out enough stuff that we can kind of get a handle on the whole kind of the philosophy behind the thing, the philosophy of science behind our opposing camps. And Otangelo has kind of crystallized how we differ in how we think. And I think it's worth looking at. But then there's Otangelo and then Standing for Truth. Now, the problem with Standing for Truth is that he is going to take a whole lot more research than Otangelo. And I can explain that later on. But anyway, so have a good day, guys. I'm going to take off, have some coffee, read about ribosomes. Thanks for stopping in.